Good evening. Welcome to the June 15th, 2016 meeting of the Gaithersburg Planning Commission. First up is the approval of our minutes from June 1st. I know, Danny, I think you were out that night. So,
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion, please?
I move that we approve the minutes of our June 1st meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and I guess one abstain.
Abstain.
Okay. Next up on our printed agenda is the record plats. I don't think we have any of those tonight, right?
No plats tonight.
All right, and that takes us to our consent agenda, and there's one item on that tonight for AFP-7330-2016, the Public Works Department at 800 Rabbit Road in the RA Low Density Residential Zone for the 5,488 square foot salt building. This is a condition, a compliance with the condition of approval. Are there any questions about the consent agenda?
No.
Is there a motion, please?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented this evening.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. And that takes us to our sign permit agenda. First up tonight is sign-11186-2016 King Kia Auto Dealership signage at 953 North Frederick Avenue in the C2 General Commercial Zone. Sign permit approval, and presented from staff is Jasmine Forbes. Good evening, Jasmine.
Good evening. This application is for the King Kia Auto Dealership signage located at 953 North Frederick Avenue. The application comes before the Planning Commission because the sign is for an automobile dealership. In section 24-212, subsection B4, all applications for permits pertaining to an automobile dealership must be reviewed by the Planning Commission. The applicant is seeking approval for a 33 square foot address building sign. And the sign will be located in the front building facade facing North Frederick Avenue. The sign will be individually illuminated channel letters with a contour background acting as the support for the sign. In the evening, the numbers themselves will be lit, and then they will have a halo accent lighting in the background during the evening. The front building elevation is permitted to have approximately 105 square foot of signage. Back in March 16th, 2016, 2 sign permits were approved by Planning Commission totaling in 72.6 square foot for the front facade. The addition for this new sign will bring the total signage for that side to 105, so they meet that requirement.
Okay.
So lastly, the property owner has reviewed the sign and they gave their approval.
Great. All right. Any questions?
No.
And it is just for the one additional, even on the packet, there were the elevations were shown with the other signs,
Right.
but we're just
Yeah,
the
so-
one additional
Just the
one.
one.
Yeah, so once they have this sign, they can put additional building signage on this side of the facade.
Okay. All right. No questions?
It seems
Go
so
ahead.
large, like, you know, in scale with the overall building.
It's almost as big as the Kia logo.
Exactly.
If you go to the full elevation, the front elevation where it,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot to put that up there, so that's what it's gonna look like.
I mean, I get it. I understand that it's within the compliance. I just think that it's excessively large. But that's just my comment. I don't have any, it's not going to withhold my judgment on it.
the other thing to note too is it's set back somewhat from the road, not a lot, but somewhat from the road, where the scale of most of those buildings along there are kind of, they're sort of hitching on to a scale factor that's probably already in place, which is maybe unfortunate, but it's sort of
Yeah.
the context. All right. Is anybody here to speak on this? I guess not. Okay. So what's the recommendation, please?
So staff recommends approval of sign -11186-2016 based on the exhibit submitted and the staff report finding it in compliance with section 24-212 of the city sign ordinance.
Does it replaces an existing address sign now? Is that-
I believe they never had an
You never
address
had it?
sign. They just had the King sign, and then when they did the facade renovations, they came in with the Kia and the King sign back in March.
Mhm.
And this is, I guess, additional signage they want to put on that side.
Okay.
So,
Yep. All right. Wayfinding and all that. Any comments? Any concerns? All right. Is there a motion, please?
I move that we approve based on the exhibits submitted in the staff report findings and recommendations. I move that we grant sign 11186-2016 King Kia Auto Dealership signage, finding it to be in compliance with section 24-212 of the city code.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thanks, Jasmine. That takes us to the next sign permit, which is sign-11255-2016 Peppers signage at 216 Market Street West in the MXD zone. This is icon sign approval, and Jasmine is presenting again.
This application is for the Peppers Taco and Wine Bar signage located at 216 Market Street West within the Kitlands Market Shopping Center. This application comes before the Planning Commission because the proposed sign contains an image of Peppers, which is considered an icon sign. Icon signs require Planning Commission approval per section 24-212J of the city site ordinance. So the proposed blade sign will be approximately 6.25 square feet in size and will incorporate the name of the business and the icon image. The blade sign will be located on the corner of the building near the front entrance of the sign. There is a sign package approved for the Kitland Market Square, but icon signs were never addressed for this tenant, but there are other businesses that have blade signs along in the Kitlands Market Square, so it's, the design is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood, and the property owner, Beatty, has given their approval for this blade sign.
All right. Any questions?
No.
Nope.
Pretty straightforward. Any comments from the audience? No? Okay. And the recommendation, please, Jasmine.
Staff recommends approval of sign-11255-2016. Find it in compliance with section 24-212 of the city sign ordinance.
Very good. And the only reason we have it is because of that little pepper icon. Everything else about it complies with the,
Right.
the guidelines. Okay. All right. Is there a motion, please?
Based on the exhibits submitted and the staff report findings and recommendations, I move that we grant sign 11255-2016 Peppers Taco and Wine Bar signage approval, finding it to be in compliance with sections 24-212 of the city code.
I second.
So that's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. I'm going to interject one thing very quickly, just for the record. I do need to read into the record that alternate commissioner Phil Wessel is joining us on the dais and participating this evening, as not all commissioners are present. Failed to do it at the beginning. Thank you, Phil. Next up is our site plan agenda, and interestingly enough, it's yet another sign application. This is AFP-7321-2016 Diamond Square Shopping Center, a comprehensive sign package at 46 Bureau Drive in the C2 General Commercial Zone. This is an amendment to the final site plan, and once again, presented from staff. Jasmine.
Thank you. Staff is before you tonight to present amendment to final site plan application AFP-7321-2016. The subject property is located at 46 Bureau Drive, and it includes addresses 2 through 78, even numbers. The property is zone C2. It's approximately 12 acres. It contains multiple retail and 2 freestanding bank buildings. There is a flood and stream valley plain on the southern portion of the property. The property is accessible from 2 entrances, one on Bureau Drive and another one on First Field Road. The applicant, Gable Signs, is requesting approval of the comprehensive sign package for the entire Diamond Square Shopping Center. This application comes before the Planning Commission in accordance to section 24-172A and section 24-168, which requires Planning Commission to grant amendments to approve final site plans. Within the sign package, there are 2 monument signs that are higher than 8 feet. In section 24-212M, any monument size higher than 8 feet needs Planning Commission approval. And the applicant is also requesting a sign adjustment for an existing pylon sign as per section 24-213, subsection AF. Here tonight is Jason Johnson from Gable Signs and Laura Duggan from Key Point Partners to present the application.
Okay, great. Good evening.
Good evening. glad we could show up and give you guys a nice audience this
Yeah,
evening.
I appreciate having an audience tonight.
Yeah. So if we could actually move on to page 5, the main item of concern, as mentioned by Jasmine, is the freestanding signs, the pylon, and the 2 monument signs. Yeah. Yep. So here in front of you, you'll see the pylon sign, which we are reusing the existing support poles, but changing the illuminated cabinet. The new sign is in excess of the standard requirement as far as square footage for the sign, but as you'll see in the details of the fabrication and also the way that the sign is laid out, we think it's an improvement on what's existing, and although it is exceeding the current code, it's a better use of the space, and we're requesting this amendment because of a hardship, because of the location. If you're familiar with the location here, it's actually in a deep plain in a flood area, and so it's 48 feet setback from the edge of the roadway. It's not direct line of sight, it's not an obstruction for oncoming traffic or providing any hazardous visibility or dangers for the roadway or for pedestrians. The new sign is internally lit, so it's a better use of lighting. It's LEDs, energy efficient, low consumption, and it features generally the same content as what was there previously, but used in a better space. The previous sign was roughly 185 square feet, and the new sign has been reduced to 158.6 square feet, so it is a reduction overall.
Just to be clear, the height is calculated from what data line?
So the square footage of the sign is
No, the height.
Oh, okay, so the height is from the ground to the top of the sign.
Ground at the base of the sign, or at the sidewalk, or at the curb, or where are you calculating?
It depends on which reference you're.
That's what I'm asking, because I think one of the issues with a sign like this is to kind of be clear about what the height really is relative to what the intent of the guideline is, which is generally sidewalk or right by the street. So I'm just to be clear for the record, where.
Yeah, so from grade, from the roadway, the sign is 12 feet above grade.
Okay.
So obviously it's in a much lower area at the mounting point, but from the roadway is 12 feet.
Is the 12 feet?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
In addition, if there aren't any more questions regarding the pylon sign, there are 2 monument signs, 2 freestanding monument signs that are also included in the package. They are identical signs. According to the new layout that we proposed, they're also internally lit. They feature the majority tenant or the major tenant, Giant, and also slots for future tenants. We're requesting these signs be allowed, one in relation to the existing signs, which are, one is at 9 feet 9 inches, and the other sign is at 13 feet 8 inches. There's an obstruction. If we move to the next page, please. You'll see there's an obstruction of the bushes for this sign. That's a bit of a visual impairment for the existing sign, and that's why we're requesting the height to be increased. These signs also feature LED illumination. The whole face will not light up as previously, but it'll be a clean illumination of the content or graphics only. And these are the primary items of concern for this comprehensive sign plan.
So if I can ask a question, so the new sign, where it says Bureau Drive, will those letters be internally lit, or they won't be?
The address, no.
No.
Only
Okay. Just the where the tenants will be.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mhm.
And just for reference, you said it's going to be. It's 13 feet?
The existing sign, so there's one that's on First Field and one that's on Bureau. And so the existing signs are, one is 9 feet 9 inches and the
Yeah.
other is 13 feet.
It was put up when we would allow 15 feet.
Yeah.
That's-
Okay.
Yeah, 13 feet 8 inches.
So this will
for
be
the other.
smaller?
Yes,
This will
so,
be shorter
Shorter.
than the
That's what I
existing.
meant. Yeah. It's going to be shorter than existing.
On
Yeah,
one,
but it's still tall.
it's 12 feet. It's
Yeah.
within what's allowed
Okay.
if the planning commission approves.
Okay. All
yeah.
right.
And both of these signs are also set back, so there's clear visibility for incoming and exiting cars from Diamond Square, so that there's no obstruction for visibility for pedestrians or for vehicle traffic.
Thanks for answering the question I was gonna ask.
I think it's fair to point out too that you're replacing a sign that was a sole tenant coverage, and you're putting the subtenants on, which, you know, is a part of the reason to ask for the height, not just
Right.
raw height, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, that
Correct.
is
We
a
also
good
get,
justification.
yeah, added utility from
Right.
that space.
Is the diamond square part, the label at the top, are you rebranding the center, or is that more just a generic reference to the center itself?
That's the existing name.
What's the name, but,
Yeah.
you know, there was some kind of stylized diamond square thing there. I'm not saying you keep it, but there was sort of an image to that. Is that what this is, or is this just sort of a generic typeface for diamond square?
There.
I assume it's just a generic typeface. There was no thing
Brand,
or brand, if you will, for
Okay.
Diamond Square in that rating. I think that was just a font.
Okay,
Yeah.
just curious. I didn't know where this was headed.
And besides the freestanding signs, there's no other branding for the property that's a part of this upgrade. It's only for the tenants.
Okay. All right, I assume they're two-sided. Anything else on the presentation?
Mhm.
No.
Well,
Oh.
You want to talk
the
about the
tenant letters,
signs?
tenant sign.
Included in the comprehensive sign plan is standardization for all the tenant signs. So we've outlined the general design concept so that there is standardization. So a 24-inch, 2-foot channel letter, colors, mounting. There's an option for raceway or non-raceway mounting. So all the specifications are outlined so that future tenants and even existing tenants can bring their signage in accordance with the standards.
Yeah, you say
approved.
standardization. Graphically, though, it appears that you're going to allow branding for the tenants, right? They can use their signature sign.
Right, as is in the case of major brands, things like Subway, Giant,
Mhm.
obviously companies that have their own branding, it's part of their desire entering into a certain shopping center to be able to maintain uniformity with their logo. So the comprehensive sign plan does allow for that to happen, so that if an existing logo is in place, then the tenant can apply for that exception from the comprehensive sign
Who
plan.
gets to go on the motherboard, the main entry sign?
That has not been decided yet. Obviously, we needed to get past this portion first.
He who pays the most.
Well, you've got, I think, 6 slots. It's sort of like the first. You're not going to cover everybody, I guess. You're
Yeah.
really going to cover the.
Not everybody, no, but we could get a significant portion of them on there.
So Trudy, now if someone comes and they have a branding on their sign, like a logo, does that handled at the staff level?
No,
Would that still
they
come
would still
before
have
us?
to come before.
That's what I
for a
thought,
logo,
yeah. Okay, if it's just channel letters or something, then,
Size and coverage is by right, but
yeah,
then if
then
it's
the
an
icon has to come before us, yeah.
In
If-
this, I think it's sheet 2, it does mention if a sign does have logos, it needs to come to planning commission for approval.
Yeah, okay.
I guess one question on the two signs with all the tenants listed. Is the intent to just have the tenant's name, or are you going to have a smaller version of these stylized sort of individual signs brand by brand on that
Right.
pylon? Because right now it just says tenant here or tenant name. So is it just going to be straight text that lists each one, or is it going to be a shrunk down full color
But
version of the?
That's kind of what I was getting at when I asked that question. If they can do that, but, then it would have to come before us.
Well,
I guess it's up to that.
if there is
An icon, right?
something that comes under the definition of an icon
Right.
sign. But if it's, I think that we want to be flexible to work with the property owner.
Right.
But I think, if it's an existing tenant, like the Pollo a la Brasa, who we just approved the sign for, that could automatically go and the future tenant slot that they have.
Yes,
listed.
once the commission has approved a certain icon, we don't require them to come back every time they put it up in a different location.
Okay.
I guess my only other comment on the tenant signs is we talk about standardization, but it looks like looks like at least what's on here is not necessarily all standardized.
There's-
You've got 4 different versions as far as the overall height of the sign band. You know, some of them are 2 feet, some of them are 1'8".
On the next sheet, I believe, it has, I think those were all national chains, but I think on the next sheet, there's just standardized channel letters. This is for the building signs.
For the building sign.
Building sign.
Talking about
Not
Keep going.
the one.
the next one, these.
Okay.
So I guess to address the question directly, what is the governing standard for the tenant signs? Is it coverage, height, length, some combination of both?
Yeah,
Or
so-
any-
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's the color, so face color, trim color, also the returns, and also it's the letter height. Now, in certain instances where there may be a logo, that's why there's an allocation for, the dimensions for a logo, which I believe on the next page, yeah, so it shows a square box for a logo, but those things would be identified, standardized as much as they can be. I mean,
But
many.
you consider those constraints. So if somebody had a branded logo or branded signature for the signage, it would have to remain within those sort of out-to-out constraints. Is that the point?
If they have a pre-established logo that they wanted to use for their location at Diamond Square, then that would be something that the owners, the property managers would consider on whether they would allow that versus the standard.
All right, well, that's different.
Okay.
That's not standardized then. And we would also have a sign regulation that has some maxes explained as well. So I guess that,
I think they've included that, or what our regulations are for the size.
well, that's easy.
allowed.
We know what that is, but I'm trying to get a sense of what we're really approving on I mean, obviously, the monument sign is a piece of this, but what is really a comprehensive sign package about the tenant signs? If it's really going to be negotiated, each time a tenant comes in, which I'm not saying is bad, but trying to get a sense of what we don't really see any constraints. We just see a lot of examples.
I think they're showing the location where the sign should be located. For one,
Like the
they're not
local
supposed
store.
to be up on the roof or
Okay, fair enough.
on the,
Right.
I mean, there's some mansard roofs and
Right.
some unusual roofs throughout, and they're establishing where the signs will be, which is similar to what was originally approved when the shopping
Yeah.
center was approved.
But it's an interesting kind of question because for those that have a specific logo or tenant right now, and they have a name, they have a sign to go, we're essentially approving that. And if they move out and somebody else moves in, I'm not sure we're approving the guideline that would create the opportunity for the landlord to approve the next sign that comes in if it was a different size or if it was larger than what our sign regulations have for calcs for that. That's all.
Well, I would think that they can't go above what they're showing as far as height.
I don't.
And I think
It
it-
doesn't say that. That's the issue. So, I'm not. I mean, we can approve the signs as they are, but it doesn't really appear to be a comprehensive package like a shopping center usually is, which is a guideline that allows the flexibility of tenants moving, turning over and then getting their sign changed out. These are all very specific at this point, which is fine, and that's we can go forward with that. But
I mean, because you could set all signs will be 2 feet tall, right? And Capital One comes in, their standardized logo package can be scaled up or down. They do it all the time,
Right.
all around the country. Scaled up to hit that 2-foot band, and then you've got a consistent datum all around the shopping center where everybody's height is the same. The text may be different,
I
but
think that's the intent. I think it's a little misleading when you read the hibachi, but if you look closely, all of them are 2 feet. It's just the scale for that particular one. It's 3/4 of it versus 1/2 inch. Like, it's a previous page, Jasmine.
This one?
Yeah, so they're all 2 feet. It's just the scale of that particular one.
well, those are, but the ones that are actually branded, they're all a little different. So
Mhm.
it's fine either way. Just to be clear about what
Yeah.
we're really approving. Or what your intent really is for bringing a comprehensive package
Yes,
in.
the intent really is to get rid of the sign boxes and put channel letters on all the tenant spaces.
That's a good answer too. I mean, so if that's really the focus of this is to get it into a higher quality of sign package, that's good too.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's a note, I was just reading through the graphic and sign standards from page 2 that there's a note there regarding overall square footage that, 10% of the total square footage of the facade of the
Right.
building holding the sign. So there are some size.
Well, that restates essentially the city ordinance.
Right.
So that's fair too, yeah. But I think the answer is, and I think it's appropriate, that you're really improving the quality overall, and that's what the package sets out to do, and I think that's fine. Any other presentation or any other questions? Let me turn the discussion, and there's no one in the audience, just for the record, so I know there won't be any comments or testimony in the application.
We hope not.
I think your imaginary friend is here.
Exactly.
I don't know if he's going to speak tonight, but the proposed monument sign with subtenants or the motherboard. Does anybody have any comments or concerns about that proposal?
I mean, my one and only comment is, and it goes back to the question of, are you just shrinking down a nationally branded tenant standard logo sign to fit that band? Because, and I'm not sure this is really something that's necessarily our purview, but I could see there being, depending on a logo, if you go that route, legibility issues, right? You've got somebody with a stylized sign and it's got to fit in a set band, as opposed to everybody having
Yeah, and
the
I think,
same text letters.
sure. And I think the other issue is sort of the visual cacophony of having, lots of things on there that just becomes completely unreadable to anybody going by at 30 miles an hour.
I believe there is a minimum, or a minimum height, which is 7 inches on that.
The minimum 7-inch height, as we understood it, was in regards to the address.
That's the address note.
Yeah.
But I believe where on,
Yeah, there's a not to exceed height
okay.
for the tenant
lettering.
sign of 7.5 inches. So we did place that parameter, and I understand your comment completely, because we have a small space, and then if you have a tenant, let's say, that has a stacked logo or something that's more like a cursive writing, then you're having clarity issues, and it's really becoming more of a distraction than an asset, to the sign. So I mean, if the board feels it necessary to maintain this as a copy-only display, then that's something that we could definitely add into the plan. I think in development, we saw this as an opportunity to add tenant signage, but it wasn't really explicitly stated as far as what the full intent was in regards to whether logos or graphics could be applied.
So my personal opinion is I don't find generic signs particularly helpful. I think sort of the brand recognition is helpful if the constraints about how it's presented keep it legible and keep it, unconfusing or uncluttered.
And I don't necessarily have a problem with that either. It's just a question mark that
Yeah.
showed up.
Jasmine, remind me on the height, what the by right limit is and what our approval limit is.
For
The monument height.
monument height, by right, they're allowed to have up to 8 feet, but anything higher, up to 12 feet needs the approval from the planning
Up to
commission.
12.
Yeah.
12 is the
Mhm.
limit, right?
Yeah.
And they're at 12 now,
Mhm.
which is less than what's there now. All right, so any concerns on this one? Any issues? Okay. Oh, go ahead.
No, just a comment. It's nice and modern looking. I like that.
I'm going to miss that old giant logo.
Huh?
I'm gonna miss that old giant logo in my childhood. Now, someone can find me a super giant logo, I'd really be excited.
Right.
Maybe
I was
they
thinking
can-
the same thing.
Maybe because they like the old one.
You get the old one, put it in the back of the car.
Guess what'll be in the backyard? 6 weeks. What is that? Honey, what's that on the fence? So, let me turn the discussion then to the 2-pole pylon sign that is in the proposal. If you wouldn't mind putting that up there. So just kind of an introductory remark. When the sign ordinance was introduced with some of the new restrictions on height, one of the things that was motivating those new requirements, and what we sought to do was to limit some of the ones that were a little bit on outliers, the extra tall signs, some of the pylon signs that were really out there. I'm going to assume that in this case you saved the pylon portion, the stanchion of it, because of cost, or because, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was much more economical just to address the sign cabinet and not the whole structure.
And you can't come any closer to the street. You're at the edge of the property line at that point? Is that?
Yes, we are right at the edge of the property line.
Okay.
And also, we encourage them not to go down and change that structure because
What's in
it's
the wetland?
very close to the wetlands
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to poke around in there. All right, so what is your all's feeling about maintaining the old stanchion and keeping the height? It is set
Well, it
back
looks
from
like
the road.
but it looks like they're gonna paint it or whatever, so it'll match. It's okay.
I think that, there's no, the poles don't have a particular design style to me. They're black
Yeah,
poles in
right.
the middle of the trees.
And to a certain extent, to me, they minimize the massing of the
Right.
building anyway, because they're just very.
Right, and it looks like, I guess they're gonna
legs.
like be this battleship gray or whatever.
I think given the circumstances, it's perhaps the best solution.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other concerns or questions? So Jasmine, how do you want to move forward? Why don't you do the recommendation, then we'll.
Staff recommends approval of AFP-7321-2016 based on the exhibit submitted, the applicant's testimony, and the staff report. Findings and recommendations, finding it in compliance with section 24-170 and 24-172A of the city code with no conditions.
Okay. So to clarify, one criteria, on the subtenant bands, the max height of their, whatever they put on there, whether it's branded or generic logo, is going to be 7 inches, or is that the
7.5, I believe.
7.5? And
Yeah,
what's
7.5.
And then the total height, what's the total height of the band itself, the field they have to work with?
10 inches.
10 inches, okay. So theoretically, I'm going to do the math really quick here. They could be within 1 3/4 of the edge. Two of them could be no less than 3 1/4 inches or so from each other. About half the height of their own logo will be between each one. So we have to be clear, and staff probably should look at this one more time. Is that enough space, enough field to keep them, legible and without kind of creating any kind of visual noise? Does that make sense, how I'm asking that question?
Should we add that a condition that?
Well, I almost want it to be, I want that constraint to be understood clearly before we just wholesale let it go.
Well, I'm wondering if we should have a condition that it elaborates that the applicant shall be allowed to use national tenant signage, branding.
Sure, I think my bigger concern is that the use of the field itself doesn't get so crowded and so messy that it's ineffective or distracting. That's more my concern. Do you follow?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, there's also there's an inch
There's
and
a
a
little
half.
space between them,
yes,
yeah.
Right.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that adds a bit of buffer. But because the exhibit itself doesn't really describe how it's going to be used, it just has that generic label, tenant or whatever.
Future tenant. Yeah.
It's very much a graphic exercise that it reads and it actually performs what you think it will at the size that you think it will. And I want to put that in front of the staff one more time when it becomes real, to be sure it isn't a problem. But I don't think it needs to come back to us. That's my proposal to you guys anyway.
That's fine with me.
That's fine.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what I'm really asking is when you get those tenants filled out, to come back to staff for a review that graphically it's clean, it's legible, it works in within those constraints. Or alternatively, I think, Jasmine, you guys could develop a more clear guideline that maybe establishes an illustrative version like you do with facades, where you use some generic names within the constraints. Look at it, make sure it works, and then you guys can go sell it to the tenants without any more worries. So I'm okay either way if you guys are.
Yeah, I think.
Does that make sense?
I'm fine with it coming back to staff.
Yeah.
Well, let me.
So you have a condition maybe? For
Yeah.
this?
Let me just start one. Applicant to work with staff to add language to the sign package for use of tenant branding with an appropriate frame around it.
That's okay.
And you guys can enhance that condition. Yeah.
I think, at a kind of a more general sense, I would say work with staff to establish whether it's constraints or boundaries or relative size of logo placement so that it's legible, it's clean, it's whatever language you want to use. My recommendation is you do a generic version of it with some kind of stand-in logos, make that size and constraint work and make it logical, and then you don't have to come back when you actually get all of the tenants worked out, and you can just move forward and be right on there.
How about,
Instead of like logos, we put branding, local, or
how about simply saying that the condition of approval is that the applicant work with staff to further develop the graphics for the subtenant signs on the main monument sign to ensure legibility?
That's fair.
Great.
And based on the
Very
record, you know
nice.
what we're after, so.
Yep.
excellent, excellent.
Well done, Bill.
I pretend to be a lawyer in my spare time.
He plays one on TV.
That's good, that covers it. Any other discussion, concerns?
No.
Okay, excellent. So we have a recommendation for approval as you've read the condition, right? Okay. And we have the one additional condition, or the one condition.
Yeah, I
ahead.
do want to comment. I mean, I've lived in this neighborhood for 33 years, so,
Oh, you remember Shakey's then?
yeah,
Ah.
oh, yeah, yeah. And the Computer Palace or whatever it was, yeah. But, and Errol's, don't forget Errol's.
Okay.
But it's gonna be nice and modern looking. It's gonna be a nice, addition and make it nice. I mean, this shopping center needed a refreshing, and this is gonna be a nice addition to it. So I'm looking forward to this.
All right, good.
Did you mean Meyer Amco?
Yes, that too.
All right, great. So if there's no further comments, questions, concerns, is there a motion, please?
I move that we, based on the exhibits submitted, the applicant's testimony, and the staff report's findings and recommendations, grant AFP 7321-2016 Diamond Square Shopping Center signage, finding it in compliance with section 24-170 and 24-172A of the city code, with the condition that, as stated, the applicant review the subtenant signage graphics on the monument signs with staff in order to ensure graphic legibility and separation between signs.
Very good.
Second.
Let's move to the second, and all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thanks very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing the new refreshed look on the street. All right, that takes us from the commission. Phil, can I start with you tonight, please?
I don't think I have anything.
Nothing, all right. Dan?
Nothing.
Nothing? Who's on?
Kentlands Under the Lights, Saturday night it's from 6 to 10.
All right. Are you inviting everybody, or?
Where is it?
It's at the Market Square
Thank
in Kentland.
Excellent. All right, from staff, Judy?
Earlier this evening, I had the opportunity to attend the retirement party for Mr. Bruce Crispell, who is retiring after 32 years of service to the Montgomery County
Oh, wow.
public school system and long-range planning,
Mhm.
and our number one statistician and demographer
Yeah.
for the
Mhm.
county. It was very impressive with the impact that you think that the work that he has done on thousands
Oh, yeah.
of children
Oh, yeah.
and teachers and principals and the work that he's done, and just what a gracious and humble public servant he has always been when
Right.
doing his presentation. So he was presented with a certificate of appreciation on behalf of the mayor and city council and the planning commission.
That's really good because he's done a lot and he's taken lumps, despite.
That was
And
a
he's
tough
been
job.
very, very gracious. Like you
Mhm.
said, very even tempered.
Mhm.
He's, good dude.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great.
Our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, July 6th, and then again on July 20th. And then just a reminder that there will be a presentation by the ad hoc committee of the CPSC property on Darnestown Road concerning a city park. And that's going to be before the mayor and city council on July 25th. And then we have polled the commission about a public hearing on the preservation of historic resources, and that is scheduled for August the 1st.
Good response so far in terms of coverage for that?
Mary, have we heard back
Which day?
from the August 1st?
No answers yet.
From Lloyd. We heard from Lloyd.
Yeah, that's right.
I think I thought I responded to that.
I don't remember. Can't remember.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Anything else?
That's it.
Summer's bumping along. Frank, anything tonight?
Nope, I just, to show that there is such a thing, this, I had mentioned this manual on code enforcement, this is the manual. It is.
Wow, it's all published and everything.
Actually, it's the second draft, there may be some final changes, and I showed it to my wife, and she said, "Oh, can I go through page by page and make corrections?" And I said, "Give me back the copy that I just gave you." So, in any event, just to let you know.
I bet there's lots of graphics in there too, isn't there?
That would be, actually, mostly just typing is the way it turns out, but.
Great. Well, congratulations on that.
We'll see.
That was a lot of work. It's good
Well,
to see
a lot
that come
of-
together.
It hopefully will be useful. There actually is a statewide version that we're talking about, and there's some discussion about actually having it not just done this way, but actually having it put together in either paperback or some sort of format that gets out to each one of the municipalities. But we're,
Good.
because it's not as expensive to do that, and then of course having the electronic version available as well, so.
Excellent. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, have a good evening. We're adjourned.